Most people only get 1 or 2 out of 3 of these right, not 3 out of 3. So I'd really like to dive into how to maximize the value of the business. Jeff, a question for you, because let's go back to the fundamentals of an exit, that when we're looking at maximizing the value of a business, there's 3 key things that we need to focus on. Most people only get 1 or 2 out of 3 of these right, not 3 out of 3. So I'd really like to dive into how to maximize the value of the business. So the first one's obvious, right? EBITDA and profit. Everyone knows that's really important. And I would even say cash at the moment. It's a great time to go shopping for businesses in the next couple of years. So when we look at number 1, EBITDA and profit, pretty simple to track, not so hard to achieve all the time. We've got to be very mindful of margin creep, all the things that are really important to drive profit and get a really healthy EBITDA. But the second and third one are very interesting. The second one's probably the hardest, creating a predictable revenue model. Most businesses are set on traditional ways of growing or organic ways of growing. For example, B2B, they're very much grown based over time and reputation, a lot of repeat business, a lot of handshakes, a lot of referrals, but that's not a predictable revenue model. A predictable revenue model is a repeatable, scalable process that is like a dial that we can turn up. If you can demonstrate to a buyer that you have a predictable, repeatable sales process, then you'll have a healthy competition. So my goal whenever I'm exiting a business is to make sure I have at least 3 LOIs, letters of intent, on the table, and then looking at demonstrating to them that I have a really healthy, simple, scalable, predictable revenue model. And then usually that drives the price up in the competition between those 3 buyers. So number 2, we could do a whole podcast just on that one, as that's one of my favorite things to do, is go in and solve that problem for businesses, creating them these predictable revenue models. But that one I find is the one that most businesses don't get right and they can't demonstrate. So that leaves a lot of value on the table. And then the third one, of course, is the rate of growth. So I'd like you to talk to the rate of growth one. This is roll-ups. This is figuring out how to compare to everyone in your industry. How are you growing? If everyone else is flatlining or only growing 5 or 10%, how do you grow 20, 30%? Talk to me a little bit about the rate of growth and what you've seen that's worked really well.
Yeah, and definitely that is going to be one of those sort of benchmark comparison points to say, how do you compare to the rest of the industry? If you're lagging behind, and then that's going to be something where that's going to lead to a discounted value for the business, if it attracts attention at all. If you're running at par, then there's nothing differentiating to say, why would somebody pay extra for that? And if it's something where you actually are running ahead, now that's something that could command an extra multiple or 2 in some cases, or some extra premium behind that. And part of what we see there is we encourage folks when they're looking at that to see what are the things that they can do to turn up that dial. So I know, for example, like the services that your group offers coming in to help them find new inbound lead generation, finding those new markets, where can they build off of existing relationships. For example, if they have already a relationship with a multinational company, are they dealing with multiple subsidiaries within that company or just 1 or 2? How can they continue to expand that footprint? How can they also build in more long-term contracts? It's things that have a sustainable revenue stream off of those. All of those can continue to propel that value forward and show that there's a growth model that has longevity to it. It wasn't just a lucky win, but there's runway still left on this. We see that. We also see folks that may have intellectual property as well. And depending on that intellectual property, that may be something, if it has some runway left on the IP, whether it's a patent, an algorithm, or something else that's generating royalties off of that, if there's still some runway left on that or additional licensing capabilities, kinds of canvassing, that kind of canvassing can occur to find out who's far enough behind that they might actually want to try to license, but they're also not a threat to your business. So we look at those and find those capabilities, say, is that another way to generate growth? And at the same time, be able to take that additional revenue that's coming in to fund your next level of research, your next level of development of the next solution by having some competitors actually pay for it.
Yes, of course, IP, very important one. And structuring that in the right way is also important. So when should they be coming to you and looking at structures in preparation for an exit with things like their IP, how they set up their business as far as the trusts? Talk us through why that's so important before a liquidity.
What we find there is that typically it's worthwhile to start having that conversation at least 3 to 5 years in advance of when you think you may want to be entertaining the exit. And the reality is other folks may find you before that. So that's part of why we want to do that homework in advance. But also when it comes time for folks to do their due diligence on your company, you'd love to be able to show a 2 or 3 year track record of success from ideas you implemented before they started putting price tags on that. And so that's what we find is helpful, is to, again, bring in experts like yourself, folks that can value the intellectual property and figure out how to further monetize that.